What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Limited Resources. This is episode number 864. My name is Marshall. I'm one of your Limited Resources, and joining me on the line all the way from Denver, Colorado, it's Luis Scott-Vargas. Luis, we're back, baby.
Oh, yeah. You had a nice little trip over to Amsterdam?
I did, and it was cool. That was the one where we got to do the draft top 8. That was my first time doing a full-on PT draft top 8, so it was really, really cool. Yuki Ichikawa ended up taking the thing down, and I felt like it was a really good showcase for draft and for Limited. The draft was interesting. We actually watched Ken Yukihiro draft, and he was kind of wild with it. If you should definitely look that up if you want to see kind of a crazy draft. And then
as Ken does.
And then the matches were awesome. Like, we got tons, like most of the quarters and semis went to 5 games and like were really close, really interesting, lots of combat decisions, just kind of a different look, from modern, especially. There was a contrast there at this particular event. But anyway, I think it went really well, and I'm really hoping we get to see more and more of that going forward.
Yeah, really cool to have Limited be the top 8, even if unfortunately I wasn't there. I still liked it in theory,
Yes, you were definitely missed as well. But we're back now. And kind of funny, I had a chance to meet in person Sirkovitz over there for the first time. It was great. We got to hang out for a little while. And yeah, it was really cool. And we got to chit chat and everything. And then right before we were leaving, he was like, hey, when should I come on the show next? Oh, maybe next week would be good, to get him to get his thoughts on Marvel superheroes. And then I got home and producer Jeff was like, hey, so it looks like The Hobbit's coming out pretty soon. And we probably need to do the Sunset show. And so that means that we had to skip the Circo one for this time, unfortunately, because we're doing the Sunset show today for Marvel superheroes. It's weird. It's been out for a while, but it still felt like it came up kind of quick. I think it's just an artifact of trying to jam 7 sets into 1 year. It's just a lot of scheduling that needs to happen. But sure enough, The Hobbit's going to be coming out pretty soon, so we're gearing up for the set review for that. So with that in mind, we are doing the Marvel Superheroes Sunset show today, and we're going to go over and take a look back at what was kind of an interesting set given the weight that it had on it. We'll talk about all of that in just a minute. Before we do, I want to say thank you to everybody who supports us over on Patreon. It's patreon.com/limited resources if you'd like to support us. And we'd also like to thank Ultimate Guard for their support of the show. If you need to protect your cards, your decks, your collection, you need to go head over to ultimateguard.com to check out their full line of products. They really do it right. There's this, whenever you make a consumer good like this, you have to kind of marry design with materials. It's a difficult thing to do. It doesn't always come together as easy as you think. And of course, you have to deal, when you're designing these type of things, with constraints. You can't just pick the most expensive, best thing at every single option and still hit the price points that you want to hit. And this is where Ultimate Guard really sings. If you get one of their products, it lasts you a very long time. It looks really nice and it feels fantastic in the hand, and it continues to function as it should. This is a very difficult thing to do. And I think that basically all their products do it. So you can check them out at ultimateguard.com. And you can pick up their products from your favorite local game store or online retailer. Thank you, Ultimate Guard. We do appreciate it. We've got a Patreon question of the week, one of the bonuses that you get for being a supporter of ours. This one comes from TGVA, who says, general state of Magic Limited question for you. Do you think Magic sets in the current year have been better or worse for limited play than the ones from 2 years ago? For reference, that would be Murders at Karlov Manor, Outlaws at Thunder Junction, Modern Horizons 3, Bloomburrow, Duskmorn, and Foundations in 2024. Thanks for all your hard work on the podcast. You bet, TG. Well, I think this has been worse, but mainly because of the small sets, that they've kind of put out, from Spider-Man to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And yes, by the way, The Hobbit is also that same framework, that kind of pick 2 vibe, where there's far fewer cards. They focus on 5 2-color archetypes rather than the full 10. And then there's this wrinkle where it can be drafted with 4 players picking 2 cards each rather than the normal 6 or 8 drafting 1 card each. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was fine. It wasn't a disaster. Spider-Man was a disaster, although I think it technically came out the year prior. But that was like an abject disaster, I think. But it feels like maybe they've learned a few lessons or maybe made a few wrinkles here or there, because even though I prefer the bigger sets like the one we just had here with Marvel Superheroes, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was fine. I played a lot of it. I put it through its paces, and I'm anticipating doing the same thing with The Hobbit. What do you think, Luis?
I mean, I think if I look here, the best set, let's even go back a little bit to like Final Fantasy, right? So you have like Final Fantasy, Edge of Eternities, Spider-Man, Avatar, Lore When Eclipsed, and Ninja Turtles, Seeks to Strixhaven, and Marvel. That group of sets, kind of compared to Murders at Karlov Manor, Outlaws of Thunder Junction, Modern Horizons 3, Bloomborough, Duskmorn, and Foundations. Part of what I like the older sets more, specifically because I think Modern Horizons 3 and Duskmorn are better than any of the sets the recent sets. I think Final Fantasy is probably the closest, because I did like Final Fantasy quite a bit, but Spider-Man was garbage. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was better, but I still, wasn't like the biggest fan by any stretch. Ether Drift, I didn't think was that great. Tarkir Dragonstorm, this is a little before Final Fantasy. I thought were just okay. Avatar, I thought was good. And Strixhaven, I thought was solid. And Marvel Superheroes was solid. Lore When Eclipsed, I think I honestly didn't like that even that much. Whereas, like, I also have a dark horse. Foundations, I think, was just really good. Like, I drafted a lot of Foundations.
I think too.
Of those sets of MKM, Outlaws of Thunder Junction, Modern Horizons 3, Bloomborough, Foundation, and Duskmorn, Foundation was like my third most drafted set after Modern Horizons and Duskmorn. Like, I drafted more Foundations than MKM, OTJ, or Bloomborough. Yeah, I just really liked it. So
that's a nice sleeper.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bloomborough was pretty mediocre. I think Outlaws of Thunder Junction was a lot worse than it should have been. It felt like it multicolor, lots of lands, some cool mechanics. I just didn't really jive with it. I don't really know why. I thought MKM was totally fine, but not great. But mostly it's the strength of Duskmorn and Modern Horizons 3. I think when I look at a question like this, the peaks matter more, because if you think about it this way, the kind of like medium sets, you can just not draft that much or ignore. The good sets matter a lot more, because past a certain point, like everyone has this, right? You've got this threshold. If a set is below this threshold, you'll just do whatever the most fun thing is that is not Magic. Like,
right.
You'll just watch more TV, play more basketball, play more Slay the Spire if you're smart. Slay the Spire is awesome. But past a certain point, those sets don't really matter that much. So for me, what mostly matters is where are the highs? What are the peaks? And I think the peaks in 2024 were higher than 2025, 26. I think that basically, like, of those sets, yeah, Final Fantasy and Avatar were the sets recently that made me play a lot more. Whereas like a lot of these other sets, like, there's different thresholds. Spider-Man's the lowest. I think I did 3 Spider-Man drafts and I was like, this is just too insulting to my eyes and brain to be looking at these Omen Path cards and, effectively AI slop. I know that that's not literally what it is, but that's what it felt like.
Right.
Whereas like, some of the other sets, like I think you're right, the small sets, like they'll hold my attention for like closer to 10 drafts, not 50 drafts. I did a lot of Strixhaven drafts, totally fine format too. But yeah, I that just made me miss Duskmorn and Modern Horizons 3 mostly.
Yeah, I think that is the hard part, is that if you take an average set from the past, like say 3, 4, 5 years, it's probably going to be like a B at least. Like, they really hit a stride with the consistency of the sets for a stretch there. And anytime I think that you put in either a total dud like Spider-Man or a compromise set like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and maybe even The Hobbit going forward, compromised by being smaller and having just less room to work with, less cool build arounds, and then a few of the design choices that they've made for these with, common legendary creatures and stuff that kind of just, again, little dings on the format that kind of push it down a little bit. You're never going to be able to compete. Like, if you just take Bloomborough, which was a set that neither you nor I were really particularly excited about, it is far from an all-timer. It was kind of an on-the-board, straightforward set. Didn't have a whole lot going on. Felt a little bit like a core set in, maybe not the best way. I would still just put that up against Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or Spider-Man, any of these small sets. It's just, I just don't think that they can compete. They're just not as interesting. They're not as deep. There's not as much design space, and they feel like more of a marketing exercise than like a really dedicated, great product for limited players. And, that is the world that we currently live in, and we vote with our feet, right? I mean, we did, right? When Spider-Man came out, we both played like one draft and we're like, this is just garbage and I'm not interested in it. And we did the Sunset Show the week after. Like, we just were like, okay, well, we're not doing this,
That was great. I love that.
Yeah. Which was started as a joke. And then we were like, actually, we should just do that. But yeah, anyway, I just think it's going to be really hard to compete. So yeah, I would take the older stuff. Rather than the ones with the small sets in it. I don't think that they're garbage. I think Spider-Man was. I don't think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was. And from what I've seen of The Hobbit, I think it has a little bit of potential there. But I don't think that any of those are ever going to be as good as just even a normal full-size set with 10 color pairs and some room for some more build arounds and stuff like that.
I agree that the way we like to interact with Magic, the small sets are way more likely to misfire than the large sets. And yes. I think that is true. Like, they're moving away from small sets for a reason. They're doing worse for sure. Mm-hmm. I think that it's less of an issue if I'm going to do 3 drafts at my shop over the lifespan of the set. I think that's like, it's putting less pressure on the set, less demands on the set. But in this world, there's a lot of people who want to engage with Magic a lot, and I think the small sets really do hurt the replayability when it comes to draft. So
yeah, and that's the group that we are a part of, right? The people that like to draft a lot. I totally understand if you're a dabbler and you kind of just pop in and you do a few drafts and it
I wouldn't even call it a dabbler. I would even just say someone like this is the way they engage with Magic. It's not, you're not doing 30 drafts or even 15. But
so would you say like they dabble in draft then?
No, because the dabbler, I think has more of an implication that they're not as into Magic, which I don't think is necessarily true. If you really like the paper draft experience, you could be super into draft and still want to do 5 paper drafts and not any online drafts or whatever. Sure. I don't know that I would call them a dabbler.
Yeah, I just meant somebody who doesn't put in the numbers.
No, I just respect our audience. I think is the biggest difference.
let's do a crack pack. In fact, our last crack a pack for Marvel superheroes, and we'll see what we get. Our first card out is PIM Technologies. That's the blue-green Gainland. Blue-green ended up being actually one of the better archetypes, though I'll have to say I almost never drafted it. It's a little weird. It wasn't drafted that often, but it did perform decent when it did. I would not be taking PIM Technologies.
No, you're hoping not to, at least.
No. Next up is Savage Land Dinosaur. That's the green land cycler.
The land cyclers were a bright spot in this format. I do think that they were very, very cool.
Yeah, I do too. What do you think about the green one in particular?
I mean, it's solid. It's one of the ones like compare. I mean, well, Roxanne Brutes, the black one, loses out in part because of
the black one. Yeah, it's our next
black
card,
being weaker than green. But I think that Savage Land Dinosaur is also just a better card if you cast it. So yeah, I think it's a pretty solid one. I guess I would take it over the blue-green land, but I really do hope that we're not taking either of them.
Yeah, and then Roxanne Brutes is our next card, and then the next card is perhaps the GOAT. Herbie Scout Unit. We could not figure out what Herbie stands for. It says something in the flavor text, but then we looked it up and on the some Marvel wiki or whatever, it doesn't have that. So it's I guess they just made it up or something, but
yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, I would take it over where we're at right now.
Yeah. Also sealed All-Star Herbie Scout Unit. Next is, we're going to definitely talk about this card, Murdoch's Crusade. Wow.
Yeah.
What an overperformer. Holy smokes.
We underrated this one a bit. I will say that.
I mean, to say the least, right?
This is one of the best white commons. Obviously, Hero in Training is the GOAT, but Murdoch's Crusade has argument to maybe be the second best white common.
Yeah.
And I think that it's certainly the pick right now. I mean, one of the things you do want to do is start out in white. So opening a good white common is a fine way to do that, especially if you're not seeing other competition. But we haven't seen the whole pack yet, of course.
And it's interesting because the clues were there, Luis, right? It has the vibe of a card that has been tweaked, right? That somebody went back and said, this is too good. Instead of exile target enchantment, let's make it mana value 4 or greater. Like it's killing too many web ups. Let's just make that a thing. And because this style of card is typically a fringe playable or a sideboard card. And this one's just like, again, this to me is the poster child for the hypothesis that we put forth basically every set review now, which is this creature going to die for less mana than I cast it for? And flipping that around, can this removal spell trade up? Can I spend less mana on this removal spell than my opponent spent on the thing? And that's kind of built into Murdoch's Crusade, right? Like it has to, basically. It's almost impossible for it not to do that. And then it has this random mode that if you get to teamwork it, you somehow get like 9 mana worth of stuff for your 2 mana. And it's like, oh, okay, well, that's just an absolute blowout, anytime you get to do that extra thing. Next up is Kunlun Warrior. This is the red 2-drop. I very much a victim of red here. This is a perfectly reasonable Magic card, but it missed for 2 reasons. 1, because the other red cards stink, and 2, it's somehow a hero. Like, villains really needed this to be a villain, to be okay. Yeah.
I see what they were trying to do there, which is they're trying to like seed it a little bit where it's like, this is a red hero for like the heroes deck. And they had like the other discard, theme there too.
Mm-hmm.
But with Midnight, whatever her name was, the 3/1 that you could discard, draw a card for each card you discarded.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yes, it really did hurt that this wasn't a villain. And it turns out the villains needed a lot more help than the heroes did.
Definitely. And, this would have been a good one for that, right? Because there was the cares about 2 creatures in the yard sub theme. And this, could have been a way to help smooth that out. The Land Cyclers did a good job with that, but it needed a little more help. Next up, this is kind of funny because I view this card and the next card in the pack as both the opposite of Kunlun Warrior, which is that they're fine, but they get held up a lot by their other cards, which is Brave Brawler and Agent of Atlas. Really, Agent of Atlas is kind of in my crosshairs for this, but Brave Brawler to an extent as well, which are totally reasonable Magic cards, but they are, high performers in the format because of all of the other good things going on in white.
Yeah, I think that they are pulled up by the rest of the white cards more than it's not like they're an awesome card themselves.
Right. They're fine, but yeah. I mean, imagine if Agent of Atlas was red. Like, just you wouldn't even touch it. Next up, underrated for sure at the beginning of the format, Shield Spy Kit. This card ended up doing some work, man.
Yeah, that Shield Spy Kit is another card that just did way better than it looked like it was going to, at least to me.
Definitely.
I mean, I still think you're supposed to take Murdoch's Crusade over it, but it is a good card, clearly.
Uncommons. First one is Shield Helicarrier. This is the 4 mana 4/5 vehicle that creates 2 1/1s, but it has the kind of crippling crew cost of 6. That is a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, though if you've actually been looking at stats, this card has gotten slightly better as time went on.
Oh, really?
I do think that it's not like an amazing card, but I think it's certainly a playable one.
Yeah, I don't think I ever put this card in my deck. Maybe once when I had maybe like the Mind Stone or something like that. I can't remember, but some like mild synergy that I thought maybe it was Wiccan or I don't know, something that I thought I could blink this thing or something. But I mean, yeah, just on its own, it just played too close to 4 mana for 2 1/1s to be really great. Next card also, man, red really got wrecked. It's Truck Toss, 2 red, does 4 damage to any target. And if you control a vehicle, it's even cheaper. I mean, geez, like this type of card should be good, right? Like
you would think so, yeah. But I think the double red alongside red being like not a great color is really hurting Truck Toss here. You know
what I want to talk to Circo about next time is which are the cards that make a thing not a great color? Like, is it just the creatures? Like, is that what, because Truck Toss is a good card, or at least a playable card. So Like if we keep looking at every red card and saying, well, the other red cards are drawing it down. Well, which ones are they? Because I don't think Truck Toss is pulling other cards down, right? It's like you would think it would be an auto include in any red deck, for example. Maybe not like a first pick, but does 4 to the face. Like, I mean, that can really end the game. It even has like a random cost reduction on it.
Yeah, that one doesn't obviously come up too often, but yeah, that's a real thing too.
Evil's Thrall is next. That's the 2 and a red threaten effect. And if you control a bigger villain, you get to keep it for a little longer. I guess not quite really enough of a sacrifice theme to make this thing go.
Yeah, I never really got this one to work, so I can't say that I'm too thrilled about it.
I like this next card a lot. It's Night Nurse, Healer of Heroes.
Yeah, this card's good. This card's in the Magic Online cube right now.
Oh, really?
Because if you remember, the Samwise was in for a long time, and this is kind of a better version because it has lifelink.
Right. And you can get fetches back with it and stuff, or is that...
Yeah, I mean you could do that with Samwise as well, but yeah, the ring nonsense, the Tempted by the Ring stuff didn't really ever do anything. So lifelink, I think, is going to be ultimately better there.
It's better. And our last rare for Marvel Superheroes is World War Hulk. Sad.
Yeah. This card looked pretty cool, and I had it in a big red-green deck the first time I drafted it, but it didn't end up doing that much, I feel like.
I had the same. So what do we like? Night Nurse, Murdoch's Crusade?
I think I would probably just take Murdoch's Crusade.
I would just take Crusade.
It's just, it adds more to your deck. Like it adds a removal spell, which I think is just more important.
I do too. And again, the insane upside on Murdoch's Crusade is just, and the baseline was close enough too. Okay, well, we would not have picked that in our first draft of Marvel Superheroes, but as we know, our things change as you go through the format, and we're going to end up taking Murdoch's Crusade. Let's get into the Sunset Show. First up, if you can summarize the set in one sentence, what would it be?
Heroes are good and villains are bad. That's what I would say.
Yeah, they really did let that play out in real life. I said it aimed for a double and it hit a double. The set to me seemed, it didn't seem to go completely off the deep end, aiming for some really deep, rich, interesting, multicolored build around format. It went more for individual card quality, kind of here's a superhero, look how cool he is. Here's another superhero, look how cool he is. Yep. And then kind of just piling up a bunch of those together. And that leads to a more straightforward environment, which I don't think is a bad thing. And also, I don't know, Luis, you have a better view on this. You would have a better view on this with your career in gaming and game design. But, man, if I worked at Wizards and the bosses came and said, hey, you're going to be in charge of the next set, I'm like, oh, cool. What is it? It's Marvel Superheroes. Like, this is one of the biggest IPs that they haven't done yet, if not the biggest, right? I mean, this is a huge monetary stance for Wizards of the Coast. Like, they really need this to do well. And the last time this happened was Final Fantasy, and it crushed, right? I mean, it broke every record for Wizards, and the limited format was really good. And the cards were really interesting, and it had all these cool promos and all this extra stuff, and it just sort of checked every single box. And man, if this thing landed on my desk, I would be so worried about shooting for the stars and missing on such an important IP that I just wonder if I would just try to keep it a little more in the, like, I'm just going to try to hit, again, like a solid double. That's a real, I'm aiming for a B, but I'm going to take a lot less risk so that I can hit it. Do you think that has anything to do with how these sets are designed? I mean, they have to think in the back of their head about the risk and the rewards monetarily, right?
I mean, I would be surprised if they didn't. Like, I obviously I don't know exactly how this all came to be, or like what the process looks like. But if I was in charge of this, I would be thinking of the same things. I really don't know how you could not.
Yeah,
I think it's just too important to, like, when you're doing something with an outside IP, and especially with like Spider-Man, and then they probably paid, through the nose or something to make it so they didn't have to do Omen Paths again, right?
Yeah, so they had to give up something in that.
I would assume so. So if that's all, if those are the stakes, then yeah, this would not be the set to try anything too particularly wild. And they did a heavier creature set where the heroes are good and the villains are not, which I don't think that was intentional, but better that than the alternative. Better for the heroes to be good and the villains to be bad than the villains to be good and the heroes to be bad, I think.
Definitely. I mean, seriously, if you and I were in a design meeting where we were like, okay, we've got this heroes and villains kind of layer on this thing, and I raise my hand, you're the lead designer, and I say, hey, so what if we design all these and then a month later, everybody realizes that the heroes suck? Right. And by the way, you know, you might chuckle. You're like, yeah, but they're not going to do that. Well, look at some of the ones, like some of the heroes that they put out are somebody's favorite character, fictional character in the world. Right. I love the Human Torch. I've got his poster. I got his first appearance. And this is what you get. Right. You get some 2/2 flyer with marginal upside. Like, for the most part, they did a good job with these, but you can see what it looks like if across the board they did a little bit too bad of a job. And then the Agents of Hydra is the best whatever. And you're like, yeah, there's not as many people that are into that, you know, as these heroes. So, you know, I just, it kind of feels like they weighted it towards the middle ground and then they weighted it a little bit towards heroes and just said, if we are going to lean in a direction, it's going to be like that. And I think that's fine. I don't, you know, I'm not going to judge them for it. And, you know, in my opinion, they hit the double. They hit that mark, and that's totally fine.
If that's what they were going for, they got it.
Yes. What turned out to be the best archetypes? I mean, I think for us, this is the story of the format, right? Is that
I think for most people, it's that white heroes aggro was typically the best. Blue white, certainly the front runner, especially initially, like it was ridiculous, but green white as well ultimately ended up being fine too. Yeah,
you know, you and I did our format overview, and I looked at the archetype breakdown numbers on 17 lands before we did this show, just to see like how much of stuff shifted, or, you know, the question we always have is, can the format adjust? Can it adapt? And it did a little bit, but not really. I mean, looking out, it's the same stuff. It's blue white is in a tier of its own, and then green white and green blue are in kind of the next tier, and then all the other archetypes make up the rest of the tiers except for the very last one, which is significantly below that middle chunk, and that would be black red villains. It didn't really change. Also of note, blue white did go end to end. It was played over double the amount of games as the next competitor, and it was about 2% clear of the field, which is a lot. So, you know, for us, that's the headline. I mean, that was the set where blue white was too good, where white was too good. And that is, I think, if you're going to pick this set apart, that's the mark on it, right? Is that they missed with white, and specifically blue white. And while there always has to be a best archetype, you know, being the best and the most played,
to be that big.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be that big, especially when people are playing it at the clip that they're playing it. So that would be the mark on the archetype, is that the balance did get off.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that did detract from the fun for a decent amount of people.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think another victim of kind of going straight down the middle with the solid double style approach is that, you know, they did put in, and we'll talk about them in a little bit, some build arounds. The plans were kind of seeded build arounds and stuff, but basically all of them missed. And then there wasn't, you know, the last few sets that we've had, there was a hidden archetype or an 11th archetype, if you will, right? Something that was there that they hinted at, or that you could see if you went over all the cards, and you could go, okay, well, is it going to be a real thing? You know, the Vivid deck, or the, you know, Converge, or the decks that pay you off for having multiple types of mana, multiple lands, the 5-color deck, that type of stuff. And this set didn't really support that. It didn't really have the cards for it. It didn't really have the payoffs for it. And so it did feel much closer to a 2-color, maybe with a splash, or if you're green, maybe you're 3-color, something like that type format. And again, these are things that aren't critical to have a good format, but they are critical to have a format that lasts for a really long time. And I think it's one of the reasons that this one had some legs, but maybe not as much as some of the others that we've had.
Yeah. I think that you you hope for a little bit more self-correcting, but if it's too far out of whack, it's just there's only so much you can do.
That's right. I did think the gameplay was good.
Yeah.
You know, it was interesting board states. There was always a lot of considerations, especially with mechanics like teamwork and power up. They were very much on board. They made you think like, well, if my opponent taps this, then they could teamwork that, and then that would be really bad for me. Or, you know, attack, leave up threat of activation as far as power up goes, because they didn't make it sorcery speed. That made boards more interesting. What cards were we most wrong about during the set reviews, or cards that really surprised us one way or the other?
So many options. We certainly lower on the white cards than we should have been. Well, should have been is kind of tricky because like we don't really know what the format's going to look like exactly. But Hero in Training, that one I'm willing to give us a slight more of a pass in the sense that this one really is, because it's the white hero deck is so good that this card becomes awesome. But I think one that we really did miss on is Murdoch's Crusade. Mm-hmm. And I think that some of what we mentioned earlier really does apply, where it's like, yes, it's situational, but it's two different narrow things, and they're both expensive kind of by virtue of their characteristics that they require for you to cast it on them. So I think that might have been one we could have hit, whereas Hero in Training, we probably should have thought it was better than it was, but like that, whether that card's going to be the best, like that's not necessarily something we're always going to know.
No, and we really liked it. I mean, it's not like we
it's not like we thought it was bad.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't think either of us expected that it would be like up in the win rates of the rares. Right. I mean, that just got completely out of hand. Murdoch's Crusade, that was the real hidden gem. Because again, it looks a lot like a typical sideboard or narrow card. And then it even somehow looked worse because of like the extra clause on hitting the enchantment with
the cost 4 greater.
It's like, what is going on? Like this, it feels like they nerfed a mediocre card, and after having played with it, you're like, oh, okay. I get it now. What about you? Put Ant-Man Colony Commander?
Yeah, we thought this card was like a B. It's like, it ended up being a D, partially, or at least like a C, partially because of blue-green not being as good, but also just like the whole +1/+1 counters and tokens thing, I don't think really kind of came out particularly well.
What about Secret Invasion? The one blue kind of Oblivion Ring aura.
Yeah, that one I definitely should have been higher on. Like that one ended up being pretty good. Not like unbelievable, but definitely good enough. And I think it ended up being one of the better blue cards. It didn't look that good to me.
And now it's time for confessional. You'll start with the Coming of Galactus.
So the way these two cards went is I didn't put either of them on, and then you're like, all right, you thought you're getting away from this, and you put Coming of Galactus on, which ended up being an A- level card, and I thought it was like a B level card. Mm-hmm. So there is certainly some mea culpa there. For you, it's Earth's Mightiest Heroes that is you thought it was like a C level card, and it's like a B level card. So it's not like the biggest misses in the world, but we both argued
about
about
Earth's Mightiest Heroes might be like an A-ish.
Right now, 17 Lands has it listed as a B-.
Okay, cool. So
I'm just going by that.
So I was less wrong than you, is what you're.
Yeah, that's the important takeaway for sure.
Yeah, but those ones were interesting and difficult. I think to pan out. I think when you get up into the teamwork costs that are really, really high, it's like, well, do I actually have this? That Earth's Mightiest Heroes was a card that you were like, you really wanted to pay the teamwork, and it turned out that you could, like, meaning you could afford to do that and just still have a board state because you did that. And it wasn't like shields down. It was like, no, you just get all of it if you can get over the hump on that card. That was one of the great, I love cards like that, that are difficult to pull off, but when they do, those can lead to comebacks, right? Like that's definitely the type of card where you're in a precarious situation and then you resolve a teamwork to one of those, and it's like, back in the game. What about underrated cards?
I thought Stature was a bit underrated, at least at the beginning.
Definitely.
Stature is real sweet. Like just, a 1-mana 1/1 unblockable. You get to get in there, and then at some point it just becomes a 5/5. It just plays really, really nicely.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. What else do we have here? controversial cards, man, this one was really interesting to talk about as the set developed. The Sentry Golden Guardian, the one that makes a mirror of itself that has to attack, but they're both indestructible.
Yeah, this I think is a perfect entry for this. So this card is really cool. I think it's a really fun design. I do think that the Sentry is not very good. I mean, as of right now, its win rate is like in 52%, a little bit lower than kind of what you'd expect an average card. Basically, a negative card to put in your deck, right?
Right.
But it's certainly very powerful. If they don't answer it, you get a 5/5 indestructible vigilance, which kind of vigilance because it blocks the void every turn. Mm-hmm. But obviously, if they do answer it, it's just like a complete disaster. And I find that gameplay is both fun and appealing to a lot of people, though obviously a lot of people are probably turned off by it too. And I think that it's definitely controversial. You can see the arguments for and against the card very clearly.
Definitely, and it ended up being a liability more, than a strength.
Ended up not being a good card because it was too risky.
Yeah, and the reason for that is because of the removal in the set. Right. There were just too many ways to exile, and people played them. Web Up and Cruel Alliance were like everywhere. Everybody played every copy of those that they could get. Almost every copy of those that were opened in a given draft were played. Those were splashable. So people would splash them, or they'd play them in their primary colors. And it just, every time you played the Sentry, you're like holding your breath, and you just had that feeling like they're going to have something. Like, Frozen and Ice did similar. And then all of a sudden, you're losing to your own card. And like, that is really unacceptable. Like to put yourself in a position that your opponent maybe couldn't have done anything, and then you played a card and now you open the door. Yeah, that ain't it.
Yeah, it's no good.
What card had your favorite artwork?
I liked Ariel Doombot. I just like I think Dr. Doom is a really cool character, and I think the Doombot is just a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I wish the Artifact Dex was better. Yeah, that was by Michael McRae.
Michael McRae. I really liked the card itself was kind of whatever, but Rapid Rescue by Raymond Bonilla. This is what it reminded me of was like a scene from an actual comic book, but kind of a higher version. Like a painted. version of that, where a lot of the cards in the set were kind of they didn't look like comic book art, but you could really see the vibes of, it's a superhero doing a superhero pose, and he's got his fist in the air or whatever it is. This one looked a lot to me like a wide shot from a comic book, but if somebody really took the time to do a full art treatment on it, paint it, and make it look really, really cool. So I thought Raymond did a really good job there. This one's a little sad. What were the best build around cards in this set? I think this is the biggest miss for the set for me. They didn't have the 11th archetype, fair enough, but I really wanted some cool build arounds, and I do feel like they tried. It's just they all kind of missed, and I think the headliner for that would be the plans. Like, they all kind of missed, right? I think the only one,
there's one that was good.
Yeah, that you'd really want to see was political. What was it called? Victory.
Political victory, or
no, not victory.
Political. What's it called? Political triumph.
Triumph. That card was really good, but that wasn't interesting, right? It was like, it didn't have anything to do with plan, or, like a good example on one that I really wanted to be good was the, somehow now I don't know any of the names. Doom Reign Supreme, I think it was called, right? The 2-drop that cared about villains entering.
Yeah.
That was cool. Like, that was a really cool card. It's a rare. It's pushed a little bit on power level. It's only 2 mana. And it just, that fell victim to villains not being very good. The card itself, I think, is fine. But
plans in general, I think, are pretty fun.
Yeah. And they all kind of missed.
They did. It was a shame.
One that did hit, but again, it's like, I really wanted like an actual build around to be good. This one, I guess you would say it had a build around component, which Avengers Assemble, the 5 mana mythic rare, that thing was just absurd. And yes, you did need to make sure that you had some critical mass of heroes, but it just didn't feel like it changed your draft picks that often. Like maybe you take an Agent Atlas over, something that maybe you'd prefer slightly more, but like these were like tiny picks. These weren't like, okay, now my deck's going in a different direction. It more or less just fit with the white builds and, was awesome. So, okay, fine. That's kind of a cool one. And I know you love Vision Quest.
Vision Quest is really cool. That was like one of the bright spots of the format. So you get to Vision Quest for, any good artifact creature, or bad one, honestly, and it gets a bunch of plus counters and haste. It was really good on the War Machine that pumps equal to its power. So you get like a 4/6 War Machine in play and then pump something +4/+0. I wish that the blue-red artifact deck was better, obviously. But Vision Quest was actually good enough to pull you into it. So it was a very successful build run. Hooray.
Yes.
They got one.
Yeah, so they got one, right? And that one was even able to overcome, the environment in which it lived. But yeah, and then, there was a couple of cool shout outs that we have, but they weren't real. These were like maybe closer to meme type stuff. So one of them was Speedball New Warrior. So I talked to Rashad and he loves to draft these kind of off the wall decks. And he was explaining to me about Speedball. Speedball is the one that gets +2/+2 and it gets targeted, but you can choose new targets for whatever's targeting it. It makes it really difficult to kill. Any spell that targets it, any removal spell that your opponent wants to point at it will get retargeted to something else if there's another target, either one of their things or even one of your other creatures if it came down to it. Right. And so it did have Web Up still hits it. There's a few things that still got it, but it did mean that you could take cards that other people weren't interested in, like Super Intelligence and what was it called? Super Strength or whatever, those type of cards, and pile them up and kind of do the, what's that modern deck called? The one that Maria loves? Oh my God.
Boggles?
Yeah. Boggles kind of thing where you're like, maybe a battle cruiser style Magic or whatever, where you're just dumping all this cool stuff on and your opponent kind of doesn't really have an answer for it. And the stuff that you're getting for it is coming like, 10th or 12th pick or whatever. That is cool. I don't know how real it was. And also you would kind of need to get 2 copies of Speedball to at least, if you're going to build that
really
hard around
reliably draw it.
Exactly. So that was one. And then the other one, which again, this is really neat that they put this in, but being spread across some colors and it made it difficult, was the Fantastic Four. If you got all 4 of them on the battlefield, there was like a infinite damage thing that happened. Kenji did it once, which is neat. Yeah, but again, not something you should actually do. I think that's really cool. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I wish it was better, but I think it is cool.
Yeah. And to me, this is the 2 marks against this format are the color imbalance issue and the lack of build arounds that were actually successful. What card still looks good when you read it, but it just doesn't really see play?
For me, my favorite card that is, I think, not good, unfortunately, is Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. I really like this one. It's like a build around that kind of like self-solves, where it's like you draw your second card, you get a giant attacker. Every time you play an artifact, you draw a card. Like, that's really cool. It just doesn't work. Blue-green artifacts isn't a thing. Artifacts is barely a thing.
Exactly. Yeah. And, along those lines, one of the cards that it's just a lowly common, but it's one that I kind of had tagged when we did the set review in my mind of like, this could be an important card for the format. And it ended up just being like a nothing, which was Hydra Assault Robot. That's the 2 mana artifact.
I love that card.
Yeah.
I got to go off really hard with Hawkeye and that in one of my first drafts. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is cool. And then it's just like, no, it's not that cool. I'm sorry.
Right. And it's clearly an attempt at what we on the show call a pivot card. It's a card that's trying to work within the constraints of 2 separate archetypes that share a color. And this one, with artifacts and villains. And so you could kind of go either direction or maybe throw it in your deck if you had just enough of one or the other to make it viable. And, ended up being terrible. I mean, just not really a playable card at all. So that's one that I still look at and I'm just like, yeah, that should have worked. And it didn't. And then another one along similar veins. This one's uncommon, but it's similar in that it's really simple. It's just PIM particles. Like I just, there's a sub theme about drawing a second card each turn. And it seemed low effort, right? you get a creature in that could just win you the game. If your opponent's tapped out or tapped low, you can feel pretty safe about firing it off. It replaces itself for the things that it matters on. And it did affect the board in a meaningful way in the sense of, pushing through a big chunk of damage sometimes for a relatively low cost. And you just weren't rewarded for the extra card enough to make it worth the liability of the card.
I'm a big Ataxian Probe enjoyer, but Pim Particles didn't really get there, unfortunately.
Not quite. Was this a Prince or a Pauper set?
Yeah, this was a Prince set. This set actually has the distinction of having a murderer's row of the best rares in any set we've seen.
Definitely.
Superhero Civil War, almost 70% win rate.
Totally.
Captain Marvel and Sword of Fire Ice about the same. And that's too much. That's not a good thing. You don't want cards that are winning that much. I think that's not really just not a fun place to end up,
Totally. And, when we did the review, or when we first started looking at the numbers from 17 Lands for the format overview, I went back and looked at, I don't know, Secrets of Strixhaven or something. And it's the best card in that set was 62% or something, and this one has 12 cards that are better than that. It's definitely a top heavy. The good news is that they did give us a good enough removal so that at least most of these cards weren't just completely devastating. I will say though, that anytime you start to go down the route of indestructible or particularly straight up hexproof, which they've more or less gone away from, it's more of a ward world now. That is a dangerous territory. If you're playing red green,
was an example of that.
Photon was probably the best example of that because it just wasn't really interactable. Very frustrating experience, I think, for limited players to go, well, I could literally turn over my whole library and just not have an answer to that card. So I guess I just lose. That's not a very fun experience. Some archetypes did the same thing for Captain Marvel Earth's Protector, where it has, if you got it to indestructible, red green, we're just well, I guess it's over. Can't do anything. The good news is like I said, they did actually give us good removal. There were multiple answers for Captain Marvel, for example, even with indestructible, with cards like Web Up, Frozen in Ice, and Cruel Alliance. So, they did mostly cover their bases on that, but they have to be careful. That is, you need to have that removal in there, because otherwise, if somebody plays a card that you could literally flip your library up and not have an answer for, that is not a good play experience. I think that is something that they've learned the lesson on a long time ago, that they don't want to do that. What is the it's a bad card, but I love it anyway for you?
Hawkeye's Bow. That was another card that goes really nicely with Hawkeye. It's artifacts, 1 mana. And I just was kind of ruined by one of my first drafts having a multiple Hydra Assault robots and Hawkeye's Bow and Hawkeye, the 2/4 Young Avenger or whatever that makes your pings deal 2 extra. And it was ooh, this is really cool. There's villains overlap. There's artifacts. This format looks like it's got some cooking, and then it just didn't. But I do like it.
Yeah, mine was Multiversal Incursion. It might just say win more, right? Right across the front of it, but it was in a cool way. And it did feel absurd when you got to pull it off, but it's bad. What about the I literally never win with it, but it always seems to beat me card?
For me, that's certainly Mockingbird Ace Agent, which is not a particularly good card, but it is a card that goes in good decks, which is to say white aggressive hero decks. Mm-hmm. And as a result, I've lost to this card more than I would like.
More than your fair share. Yeah. For me, it was kind of similar. It was World War Hulk, the card that we opened in the Crack-a-Pack, where it really was kind of slow and kind of Eggs Basket 1, right? Where it was I'm just going to do all this stuff. But if you have any instant speed interaction, or if you can, narrow my good creatures down, then it kind of doesn't do anything. Very all in vibes on it. Yet it felt like every time my opponent cast it, I had just used my last removal spell and I just got to watch, whatever thing they had laying around just smash me. What about my opponent played this card, so now I have to win this game or quit Magic forever?
So my answer here is like actually a little bit less extreme than that because it's not a terrible card and I have lost to it, but it's a Reptile Dinomorpher. That's the 1 mana 1/2 that you can like pay 3 to make a 4/5 or pay 6 to make a 6/6. And again, the card is not horrendous or anything.
Right.
But these cards just drive me nuts. I don't want these cards in my deck, and I'm annoyed when I lose to them because it's like it's so expensive. What games are you playing that you can sit there and just cast this card and spend mana on this card? Those are just not the games of Magic I tend to play. But obviously the card does have its uses. So
no, totally. I think why you think that too is that whenever I've seen that card played by really good players or against really good players, they seem to be able to just, run circles around it. Right. Like, have you ever seen somebody attack in with it thinking, well, I could just pay the 6 mana so you can't block. And then they just block with a 2/2.
Oh yeah.
and then
it's
they
just
go,
like,
time walking?
Right.
And they're like, I don't actually want to pay this amount of mana to get rid of an inconsequential 2/2 or 3 mana to kill the 3/5 even, or to make it a 3/5. It's just like, it's one of those cards that it looks interesting, but if you're a really good player, you can kind of maneuver it so that card kind of doesn't do anything ever. Or if it does, it's a big risk to the player doing it. So I think that's why it offends you a little bit, because you are that good player on the other side of it. And you're like, yeah, no. For me, it was Worlds Within Worlds, which by the way, I did have somebody play. That's the 7 mana exile all your creatures.
The blue-green one? I was trying to think of even what card that you were talking about, because I'm like, wow, this card doesn't seem good.
Yeah, it's really bad. And somebody played it against me, and it gave me a huge advantage. So that's the one where once that card goes on the stack, and remember, like a lot of time, the card that meets this criteria for us is like a really cheap like artifact or something that costs 1 mana that doesn't do anything. This is their ramp payoff. This is what they put in their deck to do rather than some other, even just, a 7/6 dinosaur trample, which would be much better, right? Instead, they're like, nope, I'm going for it. I'm undercover
Casting
scroll.
7 mana, bounce a bunch of stuff,
right?
Do nothing.
So you really have to win if they play that. Okay, Luis, I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
So we are at the point here where we are going to assign the biggest groan test.
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you, is this the biggest groan test? Is this the GOAT groan test card, Superhero Civil War?
It really might be. Like,
this card's absurd.
Like for a long time, Umezawa's Jite was the card I would like hold up as like, this is like the ultimate limited boogeyman. This is the card you're scared of. This is, like the thing that you're like, it's retired in my like CFB reviews. It's retired into the Hall of Fame. It's above a 5.0, above an A+, right? Mm-hmm. Superhero Civil War feels like the second coming. Like this really is it, I think.
It really has. I mean, this has to be the GOAT.
Yeah.
Of groan test.
I think it basically is at this point. Like
the groat, if you will.
The groat, yes. It is just really that good. Like you're not. There are some games you can win against this card, of course, right? There's no card is like stone unbeatable or whatever. But like, it is just like from almost any position, it's going to be incredibly hard to beat this thing, and in fact, you just won't most of the time.
That's right. Also, I remember early in the format, Woody texted me about it. And this is like week 1 or something like that. And he's like, wait, is this a mythic rare? And I'm like,
yeah.
Like you're going to see this card around, dude. Like it is rough. So yeah, we're putting that one into the Hall of Fame for Groan Test. Okay. What cards have you tried for Cube?
Tried a bunch. Some of the best of them, the Fantastic Car, it can be bad in the sense that sometimes you draw it and you don't have enough stuff to trigger it. But the Fantastic Car is really an amazing card. And
what is that? Is that are you talking about the shield, the blink car?
No. Oh, I guess you don't play Constructed at all. It's 3 mana. When you play a non-creature spell, it turns into a 4/4. It's a vehicle. When you play your 4th non-creature spell, you sack it to make 4/4/4 haste. It's the Fantastic Four car. And
is it from like a? What is it from?
Oh, I guess it's not in this. It's not in the set.
Yeah, I don't think I've
proper.
ever seen that card. Yeah.
And in Vintage, you cast it off Workshop.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it says it's from MSC. I don't know what that is. That must be just like an adjacent product. Yeah, that thing looks dope. Okay, all right. So you just turn one that sucker, and then you play like a bobble or something?
Imagine in like Vintage Constructed, you go like Workshop, Fantasticar, Mox, Sensei's Top, attack them for 16, and then they're basically dead. But in Cube, you can kind of do the same thing. I had a Tolarian Academy deck, surprisingly, that did, get to play Fantasticar, play 4 spells, or sometimes you play Fantasticar and then just 1 spell a turn. It's a 3-mana 4/4 flyer.
Dude, that is a cool card. That is really cool.
It's worked out well, though. I have a little rant about it, which is when you're designing cards, you're looking at something like the Fantastic car. It's like, well, it's the Fantastic 4 car. When you play 4 spells, it makes 4 4/4s. What should this card cost? Turns out 3 is the answer, which is going to make it too good in a lot of the formats. What it just should be costing 4.
Of course it should.
Like, look at it. So it's kind of like how Gristlebrand costs 8 despite being a 7/7 flyer where you pay 7 life to draw 7 cards.
Yeah.
They would have rather it costed 7, but I think correctly we're like, yeah, it just kind of has to cost 8. This is like the opposite. It should have costed 4, and that would have made it a better design card. But instead it was just
absolutely hilarious.
So, a couple of like kind of medium ones. These are cards that are good enough for now, but I don't think are last like forever. It's like the Fantasticar, or sorry, no, Leader Super Genius, which is like a fine 4-mana draw 2 cards a turn thing. Superhero Civil War in Cube, it is good in the creature matchups, but it's more of a sideboard card, or you'd main deck it, but it's not good in every matchup. Thor God of Thunder is pretty cool. That's the 5-mana 5/5 flying. You can replay a Time Walk or an Ancestral or like whatever out of your graveyard, and it's like big and it triggers when you play spells. So it's a cool card. I really like the Wondrous Wasp, 2-mana 2/1 flying flash, tap a creature and lose all abilities. So it's good in the blue-black ninjas deck, and then this kills Urza's Saga constructs, because once they lose their ability, they just die.
They're 0/0s with no ability. Oh, that's cool.
Because they're a star and they're set by their text box. So there's a bunch of ways to make those constructs in the cube. Wondrous Wasp can kind of snipe them. And then the Hidden Lair Cycle of Lands. So, yeah, there's some decent stuff in Cube. Nothing outstanding, but some okay stuff for sure.
The Hidden Lair ones are just the rare duels.
Yeah, and they're actually a little worse than you might think, just because they don't always work. But
you need to have a basic, right?
Yeah, but they're still pretty good.
Okay. What was the most frustrating, quote, bad card to lose to, or card maybe that you just won't miss playing against or just annoyed you?
Well, it's definitely the Sentry.
Yeah, for sure.
The Sentry is like, it's the sort of the thing where it's like, if you play against the Sentry and you have an answer, you win so fast and so easily, right?
Yes.
They play the Sentry and you cast, your web up and the game's over. But when they don't, it's like you remember the times you're like, God, why am I losing to this stupid thing? Totally. Like it's just really funny.
Dude, this is one of the best answers for this category for sure, because you feel wrong.
The card is right. Yeah, you feel
you're not supposed to be playing that. I'm supposed to be able to punish you for it, and instead I'm just getting my butt kicked by it. It's like that is extremely frustrating. That's a great choice for that. This one's interesting. What was the bombiest bomb? The card you hope to open pack one or in your sealed pool? I mean, it has to be the Superhero Civil War, because it was white adjacent and the best card. So that was it. But I will say that cards like Captain Marvel, Leader Super Genius, and Doctor Doom were all 1-color bombs that were like just a half step below Superhero Civil War that didn't require a splash, or, because most of the time you didn't. To me, perhaps the most remarkable thing about Superhero Civil War is that red-white wasn't even really a archetype that you wanted to be in.
Yeah, it wasn't really about red white,
right? It was almost always splashed, which is just wild. Like, imagine if how much higher could the win rate go if it was even, what if it was just 3 white white or whatever? Anyway, but I did, these Captain Marvel Leader and Doctor Doom were definitely on my short list as well, not just for raw power level, but because they represented just a single color.
Yeah. And I obviously you're thrilled if you open any of these cards, but I agree that you'd probably rather open Captain Marvel than Superhero Civil War if you got to choose. But
it just has like a 5% higher chance of actually making it in if you just didn't get any fix. I don't know. There's something to that for sure. What was the best common for each color? White was easily Hero in Training, and we should talk about that for a minute. Hero in Training is something that we don't get that often, which is a mythic common. I mean, this card, the level, the type of cards that are around it, the rarities and the power level of them is mostly unheard of. Like, it had the same win rate as King T'Challa, for example, as Path to Exile, these are just absurd. There is that tide, rising tide lifting all the boats thing going here, but still Hero in Training is a special common that does not come together that often, that you see one with the win rate that high, and especially in, at common. Blue was Trickster Stratagem, which was really good. Trickster Stratagem's
crazy because they always make this card, but it turns out that the connive was just better than most of the things they tend to put on that.
Totally.
So it's awesome how good this card ended up being.
Really, really good. And next is black, which was Cruel Alliance, which ended up being like a significant chunk better than Hour of Defeat. I think if you were to take just default stance, you would probably put Hour of Defeat above it, on like day one. But it turns out that Cruel Alliance, combining exile primarily, but with a significant life bump every once in a while, and the fact that it could unlock to just kill anything, put it significantly above. I mean, it was definitely the best black common.
Yeah. And
you needed it.
It sure did. It black, even with that, was still like, even with some pretty good removal spells, still not really where you wanted to be. But these were good removal spells.
Speaking of where you really didn't want to be, and this was the thing that suffered the most, was red. It had Lightning Strike and even Hulk Smash, both very efficient, very good removal spells. And those were its two best. They were really close. They were barely above average in win rate.
Yeah. It's the worst I've seen Lightning Strike be in a long time.
Definitely. And then the last one, which actually ended up being my favorite of the whole bunch, was Undercover Scroll for green. That card ended up being kind of the savior. That was the card that after the dust had settled on blue-white was like, well, where can I go? Where's the next stop where I'm not in the full fight against 3 or 4 other people at the table for this blue-white archetype? But so what's the next best thing? And it was Undercover Scroll. It opened up, you could just go green-white, which is the second best deck, and it was fine in there. But then also, it opened up some nice splashes, some really good mid-range stuff that could go toe-to-toe with blue-white. I love that card.
Very strong mana dork. We usually don't get them quite that strong.
Totally. It did take me like 2 weeks to convince myself that it didn't have Death Touch for some reason, but I finally
it's because the stupid frog in from Ninja Turtles or Spider-Man.
That's right. Both. The mythic uncommon for this set. Now, this is not personal bias. This is like, this card was legit.
No, when we get to the Martialist card, I'm gonna, so Red Rocks, right?
Yeah.
Red Rocks is an outdoor concert venue here right outside Denver. It's like Golden, Colorado or something. Fantastic place. If you have an opportunity to see a live show out at Red Rocks, incredible. It's just this like natural amphitheater that obviously got then built out to like be such a good place. And there used to be like a competition that was like, what's the best outdoor concert venue in the US? After Red Rocks won enough times, they retired Red Rocks. Now it's the Red Rocks Award or whatever. And It's every other outdoor venue is in competition. I kind of feel like that needs to be it for martialist card because it's just, yes, if you want, we can just put the Manowar every single set. If you want, we could do that. I kind of feel like we can acknowledge that whatever the Manowar is, that is the most martial card. But like, let's dig a little deeper to try to find something a little more interesting.
We'll look back. I'll prove it to you. It's not all.
Okay.
It is awesome.
Looks like what's the martialist card? Oh, it looks like the Manowar in the set. Okay, that's what's
okay. But we're not even on that. We are on Mythic Uncommon for this set,
which it also clearly is.
Which it definitely is. Which is Justice Vance Astrovic. Yeah, that card did serious work. Really high win rate. Really powerful. One of the better blue cards. Full stop. And definitely above the competition as well. I loved it. Obviously, I mean, this is one of the, it feels like every 2 or 3 sets we get a Manowar that has somehow pushed the limits on what I thought it could be. And this is another one of those. What was the worst card in the set, or the biggest blank, or the most last picked?
Well, Show and Tell is in competition, but you could argue that's not like literally from the set. If you wanted to talk about a card from the set, Hex Magic is a good one for that. It's also pretty much just not.
Oh yeah, that was completely terrible. Another one that came to mind. I can't remember the name of it, but the 8 mana artifact that basically just decked you.
The 10 rings.
Yeah. That has to be on there, because you're paying all the 8 mana for it, and then it kind of just kills you. It's like, wait, what? But my maximum hand size was 10 when I died, you guys. Okay, cool. All right, this is Luis's wheelhouse. This is what he was born to do. Some people think it was to play Magic the Gathering, but in fact, it was to pick which card was the most begrudgingly playable.
So I've got 2 entries into the category. One is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Oh, okay. Agents of
So
S.H.I.E.L.D.
that's the 3 mana 2/3 that
2/4, yeah.
2/4, sorry, that when you attack alone, your creature gets +1/+1, which has a pretty decent win rate as far as win rates go. But again, that's because it's a hero and it's in the right color.
It is deceptively begrudgingly playable, but it is 100%.
And another one is Ninja of the Hand, which is definitely worse. It's right on the border there. But I played against a lot of Ninjas of the Hands, and I guess I'm giving my opponents benefit of the doubt that they begrudgingly played it. Maybe they're excited. I don't know. But I know when I put that card in my deck, it's been kind of mildly painful.
Those are so
what the award is for.
Those are both 23rd, 24th cards every time. Is there a card that you will miss drafting?
Good Land Cyclers. It was a delight to get to draft good Land Cyclers again. We haven't gotten to do that very often. A lot of the times the Land Cyclers are just not good, and they were good in the set.
That seems to be a difficult balance to hit, because a lot of times when we do the set review, we look and we're like, hey, these are pretty dang good, and then they fall short. This time they didn't. They were actually good, and I love having them. They changed the format, I think, pretty significantly to have those around. Also, it's nice that they can search for any land that. That's important. There were a few times where people put off-color Land Cyclers in their list, especially in sealed, just to be 2 mana, go get a basic that I want. Which is...
And sometimes you would cast that one off-color Land Cycler too.
Yeah, that happens every once in a while too. Totally. You have a random, one of the uncommon lands or something like that. I'll miss drafting Undercover Scroll. And the reason for that is because almost all the archetypes in this format felt... somewhat on rails. I don't mean your picks were predestined, but it was once you knew you were a color pair, you probably knew you weren't stretching beyond the bounds of that color pair, and you kind of just needed to know what cards were good and tend to your curve and stuff like that. And that's fine. I mean, that's just drafting. It's okay. But I really do like to have an archetype where when I pick a card early, I actually don't know where I'm going with it yet. And that is exactly what Undercover Scroll does. You go, I could take a decent white card, but I'm going to go for the scroll. I'm going to go, I'm going to try to zag a little bit here. And then you're like, I don't know. I could be 3 or 4 color deck. I could end up being green, white, and keep it really straightforward, and anything in between. And I will miss the view from my computer desk of me having Undercover Scroll, pack 1, pick 1, and not knowing where this draft is going, versus having, hero in training and kind of being like, I'll probably pick up some more white cards and then
Yeah. Where am I going from here? Well, let me see.
yeah. Spoilers. What was the LSV-est card in the Martialist card?
For me, I put Iron Man Master of Machines because it's like an artifact payoff that requires you to have lots of artifacts and draws you cards if you do. And I really like everything going on with this card. The only thing I don't like is that the deck really didn't come together very often. But other than that, I really do enjoy the card.
Same. And I just think it's a shame. I mean, that Iron Man Master of Machines is a perfect example of, damn, that could have been cool. That is a really neat design. And, if you ever get to see it do its thing, which I did once, it was like, wow, this is really, really cool, but not so great. Mine. Okay, fine. It was just as fantastic. We'll move on. Marshall Soapboxiest card. I mean, I had a few things, but I Super Intelligence is definitely on the list. Hate cards like that.
I mean, Super Intelligence is the kind of card I had to mention it at some point because obviously, like it's the kind of card that just deeply offends you to your core. So
it does.
I think it does qualify for the soapbox treatment in that case.
I'm anti-intelligence. It's true. Also, I will say that, from a soapbox perspective, the color imbalance was something that came up very early and was a big concern and never really resolved itself. And it kind of had a lasting mark, not ruining the set. I don't want to be hyperbolic. Every set has to have a best color pair, and it's okay if one of them's a bit better. But it did feel, a little bit like I wish it could have self-corrected a little bit more than it did. And then later in the format, I would look to the missing 11th archetype and the lack of build-arounds as the things that kind of have stuck with me. What card do you still have to read when it's cast against you?
So there's like this pair, Swordsman Sharp Scoundrel and Ronin Shadowstalker. And they're both like black uncommon equipment payoff cards, and they do weird things, and I can't for the life of me really recite what they do without having to look it up.
Yeah, there's even another one too. There's the
Whiplash,
right? The one drop. Yeah. like that one didn't see enough play. What did it do? Let's see. When it attacks, it drains them for equal number of equipment on it, I think. X equals the number of equipment attached to them. So you actually do know that one. So good for you. The other ones, these were complete misses, right? Like the equipment deck just was not a thing. Like it just did not come together. You might have one occasional interaction where it would be like, oh, I'm actually doing the thing. But they missed.
You just had no reason to learn what they did.
Exactly.
Basically.
Okay, let's go big picture here. From a design and development aspect, how did this set fare? How were the mechanics? What were some of the wins and the losses? The mechanics were power up, teamwork, plans, and then there was a little bit of connive / draw an extra card in there too.
I mean, the mechanics themselves were pretty good. Like I think power up is a pretty cool mechanic. It encapsulates the superhero feel nicely, giving you a discount the turn you play it. I love stuff like that. Like you now you have like basically good 7 drops to top deck or 6 drops, whatever the expensive power up things are, while also still being like a decent early play. I love cards like that. And so this is honestly like an A mechanic for me. It just like, it plays well. It's good flavor. It's simple. It does cool stuff. There's a lot of gameplay to it.
Yeah.
Teamwork's fine. I like convoke the most of the like tap your creatures to do stuff mechanic. Teamwork as an additional cost. It's okay. I would say it's like a B level mechanic where it's not really detracting from the set, but I don't think it adds too much. Plans, I gotta like knock them pretty heavily here because plans are cool. That's the problem. They're cool and they didn't work. So it's like, yeah, that's a loss. Like you can't say this is a successful mechanic if none of the cards in the mechanic with the mechanic on it work. And the plan build-arounds don't work. So I like plans. I'd like to see them come back, but I don't think this is a shining example of them. And then connive. Yeah, connive's a fine mechanic. Like it actually plays pretty well. Like the fact that you have to discard a real card, not a land, to get the +1/+1 counter, it's a cool bit of tension. I like when they play around with discarding non-lands for a benefit because I think that makes looting a lot more interesting. It's kind of like how rummaging, I think, is more difficult and more interesting than looting. Mm-hmm. Discarding non-lands is also more interesting because looting is, especially in the middle to late of the game, is just draw your card, discard your land.
Right.
It's not that complicated.
Right. It's good. It's just not that interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest loss overall for when you're talking about design development is just the color imbalance. I think color imbalance at a certain point does matter. And in this case, it was severe enough that I feel like it impacted kind of how fun the draft format was. So you got to knock it pretty heavily for that.
Yeah, I had the same kind of vibes about the color imbalance stuff is hard to overcome, but it kind of did. Again, I don't feel that it ruined the format. It just made it less good than it could have been. I felt like the big takeaways for me, were the fact that the longevity stuff was just not present. The build arounds, the 5 color stuff, or however you want to, the 11th archetype, however you want to describe it, the ability to go deeper and further through the format just didn't exist. And that didn't mean that the baseline wasn't good. It was fine. But it did mean that, the Hobbit kind of jumped up on me here. I'm like, oh, I got back from my trip to Amsterdam and it's like, okay, what are we doing for the show? And it's like Jeff's like sunset show. It's like, oh crap, but I'm not like sad about seeing Marvel superheroes go, but I'm also not like, get me out of here. It was good. I played a lot of it. So yeah, I don't know. To me, it just feels all kind of in the middle. It's not perfect. It's not terrible. It's just kind of straight down the middle for me. What did the format teach you?
This format taught me something kind of funny, which is that it's the first format I think in existence, maybe, that I like the sealed format more than the draft format. I just thought that the sealed format was more interesting. You got to play with a wider variety of decks and cards. And even though I normally like draft more because you have full control over what you're doing and you get to like kind of decide like, oh, I want to draft this or read signals. So much of the draft format was playing with or against blue, white, green, whatever, and sealed didn't really suffer from that to the same degree. So that was the main takeaway for me from this format. Dude,
same. I mean, so there's 2 things to mention here. One of them is that
we had a lot of opportunities.
A lot of sealed, dude. So much sealed. We keep referencing the fact that they seem to be running like a rat in a cage experiment on us to see how much, higher cost events we're willing to play. Right. And I mentioned it before, but the Arena Direct style events went from, a couple of weekends per set to like, I don't know. I feel like the last one, the one for the play boosters was up for like a week, like maybe even more.
It started on Tuesday or something, right?
Yeah. Like it was up forever. And that wasn't the first one either. They did the collector booster one too. So, these, they are really, really pushing those boundaries. And I played a bunch of them because I really enjoyed the sealed format a lot. It was really good. I felt like I was good at it, which always, makes you feel I want a good amount. Not that I was like absolutely crushing it, but I didn't.
Right.
I don't know. It felt emotionally, I felt like I knew what I was doing and I enjoyed doing it. So that's a big, these days that is a huge deal. Like it's underrated. Like if a format's really good at sealed, that actually matters a lot to me because I play way more sealed these days than I have in the past because of these higher stakes arena things. And B, they matter more. They just, like I'm paying a lot of money to enter into these tournaments rather than the relatively low amount for a draft. And so it matters a lot. And frankly, a few of the sealeds, the ones that you and I really disliked and felt disjointed for sealed, I only would do a few of them because it was so not enjoyable to do. This one, I honestly, I'm not going to lie to you, Luis. If there was a Arena Direct up right now, I'd probably jump into one after the show. Like I really enjoyed playing in those, and this is one of the best sealed formats we've had. What grade would you give this set? I know what I would give it.
I would give it a B. Honestly, for my own enjoyment, it's probably closer to a B-, but I would give it a B.
I give it a B also. It checked the box. It did the thing that it was supposed to do, and that's what, look, that we gave Final Fantasy and AA plus. Like they swung for the fences and absolutely hit it out of the park. This one swung for a double and hit the double that they hoped to get. I think that's how my brain interprets it. Not being in the building, I have absolutely no idea how they actually approach these things, but that's what it felt like from the outside, and that's how I see it. And this definitely checked the box. And like I said before, it's kind of hard to blame them. You know, it's like this is Marvel.
I think it makes sense.
And this is not going to be the last Marvel set, I'm sure, right? They're going to do more stuff.
Especially if they do well with it, right? You get to they get to do more.
Totally. What was your favorite card in the format?
I think Iron Lad Diverging Destiny. That's the 2/2 that
that's
can
cool.
Look at your top card and tap, and if it's an artifact, you draw it. I thought it was fun. It plays nicely with like cantrips and stuff like that, and it's a cool card. Vision Quest also pretty high up there for me.
Yeah, you talked about Vision Quest quite a bit. I know you love that one. My favorite card was Agent 13 Sharon Carter, the 3/2 that gets you clues when you attack alone.
When you attack alone, yeah, that card's cool.
Dude, I love that card. I have a real affinity for any cards that make like a little mini game, right?
Yeah.
Some of the cards I really tend to be gravitated towards are games that are cards. And this was another one that was on my short list, which is Alien Invasion. I love those type of cards that you play it. It's relatively difficult to interact with, like an enchantment or something. And then all that kind of matters is like, if you can just prolong the game, that becomes your focal point.
New
and
quest,
it creates
survive.
survive. And then, Agent 13 Sharon Carter's not like that, because obviously it's a 2 toughness creature. It's very interactable, but it does become the only thing that matters because in most scenarios you are able to cast it, get it 1 attack in, get your clue locked up, and then kind of put your opponent in check and just say, hey, you better kill this thing or it is not going to end well for you. And my favorite part about it was, at least in the games that I played, is that for whatever reason, if it didn't get killed immediately, I would prioritize attacking alone, obviously, but I would not be cracking the clues. I would usually be using the cards in my hand to clear out blockers or to enable more attacks. And then my opponent would finally kill Agent Sharon Carter and I'd have like 3 or 4 clues. And I'm like, this is the kind of game I want to play, baby. I got a stockpile. I'm going to dump all my mana into this over the next few turns. And I'm going to kind of boa constrictor this game down, where it's like, maybe your opponent thought they stabilized and finally took care of it. This is just every
game of Magic that you want to play.
It is. That is exactly what I want to do. So I love,
which I'm not saying is bad, because I also enjoy that.
Yes, it is definitely in your wheelhouse. All right. Well, that's it, Luis. That is us saying goodbye to Marvel superheroes. It was a good set. It checked the box. And hopefully we'll get to see more from this universe where they go, totally crazy and down all these different rabbit holes and all that type of stuff. And that'll be fun. But as it stands now, we're going to a different universe, one that's much more familiar to the Magic landscape, which is that of Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, that type of stuff. And I'm excited for it. I mean, these ones that are really closely adjacent to Magic are just such an easy fit. They port over so well that it feels like if you didn't know what Lord of the Rings was, you might just believe that this was just another Magic set, and they're that close. But if you happen to be in the Lord of the Rings / The Hobbit, if you grew up reading it or watching the movies or whatever, then you're going to get that extra cool thing too. So I'm curious to see where they go with it, but I won't lie. My expectations are tempered, being this new format, 5 archetype small set. I do not have high hopes for these. I just hope that they get to the like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles level, basically.
Yeah, and I think that we have done a good job this year of showing them what we like and don't like, and I think that actually does help quite a bit.
Yeah, and we're not shy about it. We do take our responsibility seriously, in the limited community as members of it for a long time, and people who, want to, make it as good and awesome as we can for the people that listen to our show and for us. Okay, that's going to do it for this one. If you want to find us on social media, Marshall_LR and Luis is LSV pretty much everywhere. You can find everything related to the show over at lrcast.com. And we want to say thank you to our Patreon supporters and Ultimate Guard for their support of the show as well. That is going to do it for this show. We will see you next week.
All right. I was really excited to learn that the Hall of Fame is going to be back, as I'm sure many were. And we are both actually, along with a bunch of other folks. So there's about 40 people on the selection committee. So me and you, Marshall. Gian gets a vote too. And I don't have my votes finalized. I'm definitely going to vote for Javier Dominguez, and I'm definitely going to vote for Ken Yukihiro. But past that, I'm considering voting for Sam Pardee, considering voting for Jan Emmanuel Duprat, Matt Nass. So I think that
after the win,
Yuki Ichikawa as well. Yeah,
Big
for sure.
win. Yeah.
The only two I've locked in are Javier and Ken. I'm going to vote for both those guys. And I think this is going to be an interesting class because now it's every 2 years.
Yeah.
And so getting in now is a pretty big game.
Definitely. It's a huge deal. It has a lot more weight. The voting committee is smaller. It's, I think, 40 people or something like that. It's very small. And there's a long wait in between for sure.
There's also Brad Nelson. I think he's also a good candidate. So, and Yuta Takahashi. These are like the main folks I'm looking at. So I don't know where you're at. I've got to think about it still, but I think Javier and Ken are good votes.